Do you want to understand your rod hookups better? We're going to test some bends on this episode of Hack the Fish. Alright guys, by now you've seen it all on YouTube. You've seen people pulling trucks with rods. You've seen people catching sharks with rods. You've seen people picking up weight with rods and showing you where the backbone and stuff starts and begins and how it handles. Well, this is kind of different today because I want to show you the specifics on how a rod works for you on a bank or on a boat, especially if you're using circle hooks. So we're going to do some rod bends, and I'll show you where your rod is going to start pulling back on your circle hooks when the fish are running, and where the backbone begins, where you can start fighting fish. And I've got a lot of rods to try out. I know different companies mostly sell medium heavy rods. We're going to see if each rod bends different from different companies. So we're going to start with the big Catfish rod. All right, now I own 3 big Catfish rods. I own the Hellcat, I own a big Catfish limited edition, and I own a white one. 2 of them are medium heavy, 2 of them are medium. But the one I'm testing today is the big Catfish limited edition, and I'm going to show you which eye it starts to bend at to pull the hook back when you're using circle hooks, and where the backbone begins. So let's go ahead and pull this rod down. Now if you're on the bank, you start getting a hit and it starts pulling down right here, he's probably just pecking on it. Now when you start getting a good run on these rods and they start bending down, you'll see the bend is going to stop probably at the 5th eye. From the 5th eye down is pretty much your backbone for fighting the fish. When the circle hooks start bending, this right here will start pulling back at the 5th eye, and that will give you a good set in the jaw. Now, big Catfish is one of my favorite rods to catch flatheads on. Now, I don't know why I catch more flatheads on the big Catfish rod, because I'm throwing bigger baits, but they are a really good rod. And the medium heavy, I'll have to go back here and look. I think it's 1 to 10 ounces of weight. Yeah, medium heavy is 1 to 10 ounces of weight. And I've said in the past, I have had no trouble with these rods. Great rods. And let's move on to the next rod, which is going to be a MagCatz rod. We'll see where it bends at and how it reacts to when the backbone starts and everything. The MagCatz company, I got introduced to the owner this past year at Catapalooza, that James Arwood sponsored and set up and everything. It was a great event, but I picked up a medium heavy there, and this medium heavy supposedly handles more weight. The MagCatz handles 2 to 16 ounces of weight for a medium heavy. So we're going to put this in a rod holder, see what your fast tip bends at for circle hooks, and get you a good result and a good look at it. Now, hook at the 5th eye, and the rest is backbone. But I want to compare them side by side and see where the 5th eye starts on each one of these rods. Alright, the 5th eye starts about the same length as the Big Cat Fever, but when I pull the MagCatz down, I can feel more resistance at the 5th eye bending than I can the Big Cat Fever rods. Kind of weird, feels different, but that tells me that you're going to get more tension on a circle hook set when it starts bending on that 5th eye, and maybe a quicker hook set. Or it could be a bad thing to where he's just chomping down at the bottom of the hook, and when he starts to pull on it, it might pull it out of his mouth. I guess it all depends on your situation. Now, another rod company I've grown quite fond of is Tangled Catfish. But I can't really tell a weight on their medium heavy because they did not post any on their rods. But this is Extreme Series, and we're going to see how it bends in this rod holder. Maybe I can give you a pretty much good estimate of what your hookup ratio is going to be on the bank or on the boat, and we'll see where it bends at. I just like to point out another thing too. The Tangled Catfish rod don't have as many eyes on it as the Big Cat Fever or the MagCatz rod. So, I don't know why, but some people say more eyes give you more distance on your casting. I don't know. I done a casting video with the MagCatz rod to see if I could gain more yardage on the cast. It's in the iCard above. You can check it out if you want to. Well, let's get to bending this rod. About the 3rd eye on the Tangled Catfish is where it starts pulling back. But like I said, there's not as many eyes on the Tangled Catfish rod as there is the Big Cat Fever and the MagCatz rod. But that means that after your 3rd eye was when your backbone starts kicking you down through here. Now, like I said, I've not had any problems out with these rods. If you've probably seen Steve Douglas use these rods a lot, he really got Tangled Catfish on a good push in the catfishing community. This rod I traded for, I have no problem casting it. I really have no problem casting numerous rods, but the most distance I've got on one is the MagCatz rod. Not trying to put anybody down. That's That's just a fact in some of my videos. I want to say too that all these rods are 7'6". There's not one rod that's taller than the other one. It's just different eyes and how it feels with them eyes. Because if you have more eyes, it takes less stress off the rod. And that could have a factor in the rod pulling back too when you have circle hooks. But it's also how you have S-class, E-class, carbon rods and everything. And that can have a tremendous effect on how your rod loads up too. Again, that's a Tangled Catfish rod, and it starts loading after the third eye. The rest is backbone. Now we're going to start getting into the $60 and below range rods that I use. The first rod is actually been around for a pretty good while. They're putting out numerous good rods. Is a B&M Silver Cap Magnum. And this one was given to me by a friend. I probably won't part with it. And this is 7.5 foot, and it's also medium heavy. And just like the Tangled Catfish, I can't give a lure set because it's not on the rod. But I have personally thrown 5 ounces of weight and a big piece of skipjack with this rod. And it was used. And I know the guy that gave it to me, he fishes tournaments and stuff. He has loaded some good fish on this rod and throwed some heavy baits. So, let's put this in the rod holder and get a pretty good estimate of where your hook set is going to start hook setting at. Alright guys, rod's in the rod holder. Starting to pull it down. About the 4th eye on the B&M Silver Cap Magnum. It's got quite a bit of resistance also for pulling back. Now the rest of these eyes, like I said before, is going to be your backbone when you're trying to fight the fish. So, I wouldn't start running towards my rod till it got about right there. When that second eye started bending down, that's when I'd probably start running towards my rod. Now, another rod that people don't realize that handles pretty good size weight, I'm talking 8 ounces of weight plus big bait, is Catfish Pro's Tournament Series rod. You can get this rod for about $60 free shipping. It's a good rod. It's only 8 ounces altogether without a reel. It's one of the lightest rods I've ever put in my hand. Now, I came across Catfish Pro about 2 years ago, and I hounded Mike Baker, asked him questions and everything. I kind of felt sorry for the poor guy because I'd send him a question about every couple of days about the rods. These rods are 7'6", glow-in-the-dark tip, stainless steel eyes, and it don't say it on the rod, but I reached out to Mike, and he did tell me that it will handle 1 to 10 ounces of weight. Now, this is a medium heavy. I don't use Abu's and stuff. I got a Iowa Sea Line 27H no break salt reel. But we're going to put this in a rod holder, get a bend on it, and you can tell where your hook is going to start setting the fish at, so you won't get a surprise. Horse drinking water right beside me. But I'm out here in the country, so at least there's no traffic honking or anything. But let's get this in here, see where it bends. About the fourth eye is when I start getting some pretty good resistance. About the fourth eye, and then below the fourth eye, the rest of it is backbone. Now here lately, I've been calling Catfish Pro rods my lucky rods, because it seems like I get more hookup ratio on these rods from the bank. It might just be in my head, but for me personally, I seem to get more hookups with these rods. And the fact that they're really light and everything, it helps out with travel or any distance you got to walk. Now, that's just a test. There's numerous tests out there. Like I said, you've seen people pull trucks with rods. You've seen them pick up jugs in the back of the truck. You've seen them do all these tests. But for me personally, this is how I like testing, to see where my rod is going to start pulling back the circle hook, where I can expect the fish to get hooked. So like I said, so I don't get surprised. And sometimes that happens real slow. Flatheads bite, they just ease off, and you never even know that they got the bait in their mouth. Blues tend to run like they're scared of something, and that's fine too. Blues, I tend to have a good drag set, because with any catfish, this is why. If you don't got any give, it's why I don't like using braid either. If you don't got any give, all you're doing is ripping that hole in that fish's mouth more and more and more and more, to where you got a gap instead of a small hole for a hook set. Now, if you give any give and let go of that line any at all, that hook's going to be hooked right here. But when that line loosens up, it's going to fall back here to where his hole is, and it can fall out of his mouth. I think a lot of people that's new to catfishing has this happen, and they blame it on the hook. Now, it could be the hook. We don't know. We ain't down there under the water looking at the fish. But in my experience, if you don't have any give at all trying to catch a fish, then you're going to rip his mouth and you're going to lose him. Now, that's just a tip at the end. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, give me a thumbs up down at the bottom, or share my videos to people that might need to see this. Tell them to subscribe. Hopefully, finally get here, we'll be mowing less yards, taking care of less stuff. We'll get through some fishing. Until again, this is Hack to Fish. Continue doing what you love and loving what you do. And I'm out.